Ultimate Classic Rock have published what they consider to be the 50 greatest progressive rock songs ever. Let's have a look at the top 10, shall we? Welcome Classic Rock fans to a video where we look at the Ultimate Classic Rock published list of the greatest progressive rock songs ever. I'm not going to go through the whole 50, I wouldn't do that to you, but I'm certainly going to look at the top 10. I'd love to know what you think in terms of what should and should not be in this list. Enough of this flim-flam, let's start off with number 10, shall we? So number 10 is Genesis, Dancing with the Moonlit Night from 1973 from the wonderful Selling England by the Pound album. It's a fascinating number that starts with that hymnal jangle of Gabriel's vocal that appeal to what is nationhood, very much as pertinent now as it was then. The churchy pastoral feel of this music melded with that hard edge fusion is just absolutely delightful. The opening line of course establishes the lyrical theme, which is the commercialization of nationhood, but I suppose in 1973 you'd still have some idea of what nationhood actually was. And the musicianship is just top notch, isn't it? Fabulous. Phil Collins says in his autobiography that he was listening at the time to a lot of the Mahavishnu Orchestra and wanted to embed into this music some pretty weird time signatures. This no doubt is a deserving inclusion and should be higher, I think. Number 9 is King Crimson, The Court of the Crimson King. Wonderful number that many argue starts the whole prog ball rolling. The mournful drone of Lake's voice is accompanied by the mellotron that renders this a kind of blueprint for a whole new genre. Wouldn't have been my first choice for this, as I think Epitaph is a better number than this, just my opinion of course. But this whole album and this track has a poise and subtlety to it, and a grace, majesty, really, from the wonderful fills of Michael Giles to Robert Fripp's acoustic arpeggios, Ian McDonald's mellotron. I can easily see why this is included, to be honest with you. As I've said, I would prefer Epitaph. Number 8 is Radiohead's and Paranoid Android from the OK Computer album from 1997. I would never have thought of this one, to be honest with you. I don't think Radiohead would have thought of this one, to be honest with you. In fact, Johnny Greenwood has been very critical of progressive rock over the years, saying most of it is awful. I've trawled through those fairly tedious Genesis albums, he said. However, many consider OK Computer to be a modern prog classic. In fact, I remember it being hailed as, or Radiohead being hailed as, the new Pink Floyd at the time. But certainly this track, Paranoid Android, with its exploration of vocal harmonies, varying time signatures and harmonic tension, is an intriguing number. Number 7 is Yes and Roundabout, a great number, undoubtedly. As Jack Black says, listen to the keyboard solo, it will blow your mind. Interesting intro as well, beautiful harmonic intro from Steve Howe, who says in his autobiography that he was really into intros at this time. It's solely deserving of inclusion, of course, from those harmonic pluckings of Steve Howe to the thunderous bass of Chris Squire, that beautiful, beautiful keyboard work. And that's not even before we mentioned the stacked percussion of Bill Bruford. So I can see why this should be included, although I can think of other Yes numbers that should be in its place, personally. Number 6 is Genesis' Firth of Fifth. Well, Tony Banks has been somewhat disparaging of this one, despite its beautiful classical opening. He says that he was tired of the vague flow from the river into the cosmos, and said that Mike Rutherford and I wrote the lyrics together, although it was mainly me. I won't put too much of the blame on Mike. I rather enjoy this and consider it to be the highlight of Hackett's set whenever I go to see him. I love that vague, impressionistic lyrics and that classical opening piano bit. I love Hackett's solo on this, that shuddering vibrato. It's perhaps the best solo he does on any Genesis song. Gives you goosebumps. Number 5 is Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. Well, bugger me sideways. Who would have thunk it, eh? Would you have considered putting this track on this list? I mean, John Paul Jones has said that we always thought of ourselves as a progressive rock band until it became a dirty word. But nevertheless, as Ultimate Classic Rock points out, it does contain, it's an 8-minute epic with multiple sections, a bit of a climb towards that wonderful guitar solo, of course. But is it prog? Number 4 is Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen from the Night at the Opera album from 75, I think. This, of course, is Freddie Mercury's mercurial masterpiece. But again, I would never have thought of putting it on a list like this. Queen are rightly described as kind of one of prog's fringe bands. I mean, only listen to Queen 2 to understand how proggy they got in the very early 70s. It's certainly grandiose and varied, and Ultimate Classic Rock calls this the most popular progressive rock song ever written. Interesting stacked choral harmonies, operatic sections, piano, you name it, it's got it. I love Queen at this stage. I think high camp prog at its very, very best, if you want to call it that. But nevertheless, would you have even considered putting this on a list of the 10 greatest progressive rock songs? I'd love to know your thoughts on it. Number 3 is King Crimson's 21st Century Schizoid Man. There is no prog list in the world where this number doesn't bully itself into the top 10, and quite rightly so. It's the perfect opener for the perfect album. A number that had Mick Jagger sweating like a glass blower's arse as he watched from the wings in Hyde Park in 1969. It's just inspired. I mean, merging that chromatic proto-metal riff with those threatening lyrics. It's a delightful number. Ian MacDonald said this was the perfect number for a horror film, or possibly even a big band jazz strut. Steve Hackett was very complimentary about this song. He said there's been nothing like it then or since. It was actually seeing King Crimson back in the day that prompted Steve Hackett to buy the Mellotron from Robert Fripp. The same Mellotron that added so much to the Nursery Crime album. Number 2 is Genesis once more, and Supper's Ready from the Foxtrot album from 1972. I think this is the guaranteed eternal prog rock number, isn't it? And you can see why it makes its way on every list. It would certainly be on my list. It's a thoroughly demented number with lots of references to Christianity, Greek mythology, and lots of other stuff going on as well. Winston Churchill dressed in drag. I mean, what a thought, eh? But these remarkable lyrics and themes are beautifully platformed by the delicately layered music, from the 12-string guitar to the piano arpeggios to Gabriel strutting around like some malevolent begonia. Even the ever-critical Tony Banks has been fairly complimentary of this one, stating that there's a drama present simply in the chords themselves, and you add on top of that what Gabriel was doing. Well, it just took the whole thing to another level as we delve deep into the prog apocalypse. And number 1 is Yes, Close to the Edge from 1972. Absolutely deserving of this. It's certainly deserving of the top spot. I think it's the epic of all epics, with references to Hermann Hesse's writings and lots of other strange ethereal noodlings going on. No doubt inspired by too much puffing on the old cosmic spinach, I suspect. Although I must admit there are other Yes tracks. I don't think we should somehow exclude or defenestrate other numbers like You and I, for example, which is worthy of inclusion on any prog list like this. This is a 19-minute expansive marvel, really, and should certainly be considered as one of the 7 prog wonders of the world. The band, of course, stitched this number together from fragments. Eddie Offord was a kind of, I think Ultimate Classic Rock describes him as the behind-the-scenes magician on this one. Constant sort of tonal shifts and varying dynamics and dynamic range of this one is just remarkable, heavily influenced by, certainly the intro anyway, by the Mahavishnu Orchestra. Anyway, the 10 best prog songs as voted by Ultimate Classic Rock. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. I'll leave you with my closing salvo, which is, as you know, hope you're well, staying safe, and that you keep listening.